So I watched this on a whim basically just because I thought the art style looked cool. And it is, I really liked it, but at the same time it was a little too much for me too. Because this movie is visually so dense that at times it's difficult to keep up with what's going on. It's flashy, it's in your face, and yeah, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. And when it comes to the action, it's pedal to the metal insanity from start to finish. I think it literally took one actual break in between in the entire movie. So yeah, it's a bit too hectic and relentless for my personal taste at least. But when it comes to the story, well, this one has a pretty weird and unique premise. Because it's set 30 years after a lot of people started to spontaneously combust. They started breaking out into fire, and that led to the Great Blaze, or whatever they called it. That more or less burned down a lot of the planet, and that led to some changes in society, as one might expect. And the story here follows a team, a squad of firefighters who have all sorts of tech to deal with the situation whenever a fire might pop off, including ridiculous mech suits, freezing guns, and all sorts of sci-fi stuff. So as I said, the basic premise here is rather weird and unique, to say the least. And I would say it takes a while for the movie to really get going properly too. Because I felt like the first 30 minutes of it was more or less just character introductions and setup for the whole world and the rest of the story that was to come. And I was getting a bit worried that there wasn't going to be more to the story. But there is actually a bit more depth to it, because turns out that, well, it does deal with class warfare and discrimination in a rather unexpected way. Now, I wouldn't call this particularly deep or anything like that, but I was glad there was something more to it. And I did actually find it to be somewhat compelling once it got going. But I would be lying if I said it got me really invested or that I cared on a deeper level. Because I really didn't, and as a result I wouldn't say this really resonated with me. I mean, it's definitely a cool looking movie, I'll give it that. I like the visuals. It's got a ton of color, it's bright, it's flashy, it also has a premise I haven't seen before. And obviously a lot of work and creativity went into making this shotgun blast of action. And I think there's probably an audience out there that will appreciate this sort of thing much more than I did. Because you probably know that the Japanese have a very unique culture, which produces a lot of unique and awesomely weird things all across the board. And I would say this is one of the more Japanese movies I've ever seen, mainly because of how out there it is and how committed it is to doing what it's doing. I mean, it commits fully, it goes all out and doesn't ask for forgiveness. And restraint is not a word this movie knows, because it goes way overboard. But it's unapologetic about it, and I have to admit that there is a certain charm to that. And something like this would never get made in the West, it just wouldn't. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really for me, and honestly I should have known. But sometimes I like to roll the dice, because every now and again it pays off. However, does that mean I would recommend it? Not to a general audience, no. But I'm sure there are people out there that would love this sort of thing. So, you know, maybe give it a look, or maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.